Hi, this series of lunchtime conversations intends to capture insights from some of society's thought leaders in the very strange times that we live in. It's the 13th of May, and here in the UK, we're beginning to consider how to plan for recovery, whatever kind of form that may take and whenever that may take. Part of my role at Warwick is to make sure that our education programmes remain relevant and continue to serve the needs of society. And to do this, it's important that I remain part of the research and the industry community. The people I speak to in this series are my professional network, and I rely on them. I rely on them to inform and help steer our educational offerings. So thank you. We've seen seismic shifts in all areas of life. The extraordinarily pervasive nature of COVID-19 will have lasting effects. With me today to discuss, I have Dr. Jennifer Udeh, who's the Programme Manager for Education Sub-Saharan Africa, or ESSA. So welcome to lunch, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's really lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to do this, and much appreciated because I know you're very busy. I guess, just to start, can you just tell me, what are the aims of ESSA and what are the main areas and the themes of your work?
Sure. So Esther, as you mentioned, stands for Education Sub-Saharan Africa. We are a social enterprise focused on the tertiary education sector in Sub-Saharan Africa. And we're really focused on bringing together evidence to improve the tertiary education sector in Sub-Saharan Africa. We do this by bringing together various stakeholders in the sector, so young people, academics, universities and decision makers. And we're really focused on carrying out research, informing practice and policy as well. We're also increasingly looking at the link between education and work and the role that tertiary education plays in ensuring employment for youth in the sector. In terms of our themes, we take a very end-to-end view of the sector itself. So we have some projects that are looking at access to education. Some of our projects are looking at the quality of the system itself. And some, as I say, are looking at that link between education and work. So in terms of access, we've got a project looking at the impact of scholarships programs. What we found out there is really that there are no standard ways of measuring the impact and return on investment in scholarships. So we've done a lot of work on gaining insights and developing key performance measures for scholarships.
And is that work ongoing, or is that work being carried out around the impacts of scholarships?
Being carried out, and imminently within the next few weeks or so, we've actually written the chapter in the UNESCO GEMS report. So that will be published in the next couple of weeks. So we've got a lot of insights in there, in detail around the.
Can I ask, were there surprises in that plate? What were the surprises in that space, or were there?
I'd rather wait until the big reveal in a few weeks, but we looked at in terms of return on investment impact, we looked at access, we looked at some themes around retention, just ensuring that there's an impact-driven approach to scholarships as well. But there's a lot of insights in that, and we will be launching that very soon. So I would just appeal to everybody to keep an eye on our website. And UNESCO for that GEMS report, which should be coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, great.
Some of the other themes I mentioned, so we've got some around faculty, staff capacity and capability. And this was really answering the question, are there enough faculty to cater for the growing enrolment rates as well?
When it's Sub-Saharan Africa, what kind of region are we looking at there? How big is that region? How many people did you have a look at, or did you focus on specific countries?
For the faculty work, we focused on Ghana. So it was a pilot that we focused in Ghana, and we're moving now to East Africa, 6 countries in East Africa. So in Ghana, we focused on public universities. And we found out, we found out that for public universities, in order to meet the demands, in order to kind of meet the policy recommendations by the government, they needed, I think it was over 3,000 faculty. To meet the current demands, and
3,000 more.
3,000 more than they currently have, and interestingly, 70% of them needed to be women as well to meet the gender ratios that they had. So we found out that out of the 120 professors in Ghanaian universities, only 8 of them were women, and this really led us to look at another theme, another strand, which is around women leadership as well, which is relatively new. So we're looking at the role of tertiary education in equipping women with leadership skills and helping them reach leadership positions as well. And I mentioned this link between education and work. So one of our newest projects, which is really very new, is looking at this link between education and work and business engagement. And what we're initially starting to see is that there's many policies around that, and particularly in Ghana, but not being implemented. So there's an implementation challenge. We're really interested in insights and examples of frameworks that work, internship frameworks that work, or really good examples of how business has been able to engage effectively with academia. And I know particularly for WMG, I mean, this is what you do and what you're good at. So we would be really interested in learning from you and how this has worked, and how we can take some of that learning to inform the work we're doing in Sub-Saharan Africa as well. So an end-to-end view.
And that's something, I guess that's something I will pass on to Margot, who's launched this lunchtime conversation, who's our new executive chair, that, and certainly to find those ways of sharing the practice that we've had success in. And I think from my own observations of being part of WMG for 20 years, and I think what I observe is how nimble, if I dare call it that, nimble WMG has been to respond and to understand and to forecast what's required to make those relationships work with industry, and not to have a fixed policy of this is how we do it, but actually keeping alert, keeping nimble, and listening to what the market's doing and working with them and empathizing with them, and really being in partnership, working with them to be able to find ways, different ways and different strands of making those engagements, and always being open to flexible ways of doing things. And so I think from my experience with WMG, that's certainly one of its major strengths, is that it's prepared to modify and adapt and learn, and it's got experience of doing that. So, but I mean,
partnerships. Sorry to interrupt. Partnerships are very important to us in the work that we do. I mean, one of kind of our core principles is to have really Africans on the ground, African partners on the ground, to be at the centre of what we do. So we're recognising that it's kind of Africans on the ground that obviously have the necessary will to change things, but also the power and influence to be able to make the change and to sustain the impacts that we're trying to make as well. So partnerships is a big area of work, and we focus a lot on making sure that we have the right partners, and then we're building networks in Africa to be able to implement the changes that we want to have, and to ensure that they're sustainable and owned within the continent as well. Yeah,
well, I mean, that kind of partnership, Warwick has an international as one of its pillars, one of its strategic pillars as a university. And we're certainly actively looking at ways of developing better ways of working. And we as a theme, we look to engage in transnational research, and we want to promote intercultural experiences to all staff and students at Warwick. And from my career, I've really enjoyed delivering educational programs all around the world. How can we get better at doing that with African partners? How can we learn from what you have at ESSA? How can you help us get better engaging with some of the partners in Africa?
That's a great question. ESSA is and continues to position itself as a broker of partnerships. And we recognise that that's a value that we bring. For example, the demographics project as well, it brought together many partners that probably wouldn't have come together from all around. So Ghanaian partners, we had demographics experts, Population Reference Bureau in Washington as well. And even talking to the institutions across Sub-Saharan Africa as well, there is a real need for that broker role to bring together the right partners, and that's what we're doing. We're positioning people to be able to have common interests, common objectives, to be able to drive change in the tertiary education sector. So how can WMG do better? I mean, an obvious answer would be to engage a bit more in the work that we're doing. We always
do you have resources that we can pick up immediately, or is it about developing these relationships for future?
We have existing relationships and networks within the country. In terms of resources, a lot of data and knowledge is coming out of the work that we do. So we have project reports. We finalised a project last year with Cambridge University, which developed a African education research database, which is on our website, and that's profiling African-based research on education, which is accessible to policymakers, to researchers across the world. So students at WMG, staff at WMG,
and I guess even like folks
access
like
that
me who are involved in delivering some lectures, you know, I guess that's available for me to go and look at and update my reference list with maybe some fresh references that give fresh perspectives and insights, and a fair, balanced view of the research base that we draw upon to inform how we deliver and how we educate.
Yeah, definitely. We also have a series of blogs existing and coming out in the next few weeks on all of the themes that we look at ESSA, particularly in this present time. We're going to be releasing a lot of blogs on how the COVID crisis has impacted education in Africa as well. And we're also open to profiling academic perspectives from across the continent, but also across the world as well. So if there's interest or anyone doing any relevant research on education, on the link between education and work, labour markets, we would be very interested in profiling their perspectives and the work we're doing. And the work that they're doing through our databases and through our blogs as well. So again, that would be a call to the community at work. So definitely get involved, and we're open to sharing their knowledge on aspects and areas that are relevant to us.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, well, hopefully if they're listening, they'll know to either get in touch directly with ESSA on ESSA's website, or with me, or with you too directly, Jennifer. I'm sure they'll find you if they have a Google for you. Now, I have to say that I have known you for long. I have known you for a long time.
It's been a while, Mary.
And I am delighted to brag and boast that I supervised your third-year project some time ago when you were studying your engineering undergraduate degree at Warwick. And of course, after that, you've gone on to complete your doctorate here at WMG. And then you did something. I think you did something extraordinary. You know, so you're born and bred Londoner, but you're a born and bred Londoner with a Nigerian background, and you elected, once you completed your doctorate, to go to Nigeria and to sign up for the national service, so that you really explored your identity and explored the identity of being Nigerian. How was that? What did that feel like?
It was interesting. It was very interesting. I mean, I did it to increase my network, and as you said, to learn a bit more about my culture, to be able to build a bit of a network and see how all the skills that I've learned and all the work that I was doing in my doctorate around innovation and entrepreneurship, how it might be applicable in a developing context as well. It was very challenging. It was, I think my big lesson was I had to not treat it as a foreign country. You know, you think it's not so foreign because I'm Nigerian, I have Nigerian parents, but treat it as a foreign country, and be interested in kind of exploring, as you would, the culture, the languages, the different viewpoints as well. But don't have, I think my big lesson was I expected to understand a lot of things, and I think I had to be open to learning, which I like to do. But I think I had to just treat it as, no, you don't, what you think you know about Nigeria and the way things work and the culture, there's a lot more that you still have to learn. I did what I sought out to do in terms of building a bit of a network. Had some interesting different employments while I was there, with the World Bank and a few other smaller organisations as well. And it really was the experience that's led me to this to ESSA, to the work that Esther's doing in the role that I'm kind of pursuing here at ESSA. So it's really,
because ESSA was kind of initiated from connections. It was from the Warwick community that it was initiated originally.
Right.
And I remember going to a get together, a Warwick in Africa meal, where I think you spoke to the guy who was the chair or the initiator of ESSA.
Yes, Patrick Dunn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, as you know, I've always I've maintained my connection to Warwick through teaching, and also I was asked to contribute to the Warwick Africa Summit as well. And that's I guess I met Patrick there, who's the founder of ESSA. But he didn't talk about ESSA at that meeting, no. So I didn't know ESSA existed. It was about Warwick in Africa, which is another program that ESSA does as well. But yeah, he's the founder of Warwick in Africa, and he was the one that wanted to look at how we can how we can tackle systematic change within the tertiary education sector, which was the foundations of ESSA. We're 3.5 years old. Yes, 3.5 or 4 years old, so maybe not new anymore, but going through quite a rapid accelerated growth phase.
Do you think the kind of I mean, this series of conversations is really the backdrop of these conversations, of the fact that the UK, we're still in some form of lockdown, although some relaxing of some rules, and there has been like really significant implications of the pandemic that we're living in, and some of these are going to sustain going forward. Do you think that's going to affect, the fact that we can talk digital education at Warwick's all gone online, and certainly for the short term, do you think that's going to impact significantly in the region that ESSA is there to support, or do you feel it's less impactful?
It's definitely going to, it's impacting. It's the same challenges that institutions like Warwick or universities going through are the same challenges that our stakeholders, who include universities, are going through as well. So there's big lessons, there's big learnings, there's big kind of shifts happening around moving more towards remote online learning and delivery as well. Obviously our stakeholders' priorities will be changing. The crisis will demand different and adaptive leadership styles. I think recognising that there's lots of uncertainty and there's still a lot of change to come. So this will inform the programmes that we do, the programmes that we're shaping around leadership and business engagement as well. But no, definitely that it is impacting quite severely. I know universities closed in Africa and quite quickly, and had to move towards online learning, which was a big focus and has been as well. I mean, for us, I think the main challenge of the crisis, we're already a remote organisation, but it's really around the partnerships. As I mentioned, partnerships are very core to the work we do. So we need to think about how we're going to build new partnerships in Africa, not being able to travel there, and also just be careful about how we maintain communication and engagement with our existing partners as well. The issue of data as well. We say we're evidence-based. The data challenges increased with the COVID, so we can't actually, there's limited opportunities now to do primary research.
I see, yes.
Yeah, so kind of access to data that's going to inform the work that we're doing, and data that researchers will need on the continent will be limited as well. So there's lots of unknowns, lots of challenges, lots of new kind of adaptive styles that we might need to kind of support support with the work that we do.
Yeah, yes, okay. Well, I'm glad you're at the helm to take that on, Jennifer. Thank you very, very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you too, Mairi. It's always lovely to talk to you.
It's really nice, and I really appreciate. I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and speak. And the insights that you share with me, they are enormously useful to me, to be able to actually go away and just make access to the resources that ESSA has got. And since knowing about them, I've done that and included them in my programme. So it's nice to think that they get wider. A wider view. Also, and I would just maybe for me, just kind of one last thing. I would just say we're very interested in international collaborations and engagements with people. So, and partnerships are very important to us. So I would just
kind of, ask people to just, take a look at our website, sign up to our newsletter.
Yes.
If you're doing interesting work in the themes that we're doing, do get in touch. We're very interested in profiling evidence of what good practice, and also learning from good practice as well, and collaborating to improve tertiary education in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. If anyone listening would like to hear more from Dr. Jennifer Udeh, either drop me a line and I'll forward it on, or I'm sure you can find Jennifer if you do Google her. And if not, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a link to Warwick's website in the closing slide. This series is also going to be made available as a podcast. Thank you very much, and Jennifer, enjoy your lunch.
Thanks very much, Mairi.